I am Rita Fields, and I'm a professor and a consultant. I teach in a number of subjects, and I'm very interested in economic development and the history of the city of Detroit. I have done work in the economic development community, and I was struck by the different experiences of entrepreneurs in the city and the wide range of differences. I was also struck by the fact that even though there's so much money available, there's so much funding available within the city of Detroit, that there are a number of people who A, are not aware of that, and or B, are not able to participate in that revival because of various things. And so I've always played with this idea in my mind of exploring why that is, how prevalent it is that individuals have to operate outside of the traditional entrepreneurial paradigm within the city. So my project is on the underground economy in Detroit. And those are individuals who have businesses, but who may not have registered their business officially, but they're still selling, trading, receiving money, and not necessarily paying taxes. So they're just outside of the economic fringe from an entrepreneurial perspective. I was very intrigued about the concept of what that means and how people view that as part of our economic landscape. And I have found a wide range of views, but regardless of what an individual thinks of it, it is still here. It is still a pretty critical part of our economy. And I think it's really important in order for us to move forward to be cognizant and fold in as many of the individuals who are in this demographic as possible. What makes this work really important is the fact that the revitalization of the city of Detroit is this really complex thing. And for some individuals, it's going to be a little bit easier to negotiate because they have more intangible elements about themselves, whether that is having the ability to develop relationships or to negotiate the requirements in terms of licensing and that level of tenacity. But there are individuals who don't come to the table with invisible capital of that sort, but they still have amazing businesses, they still have a tremendous amount to contribute. And so how do those individuals make the transition? There are perspectives that certain segments of our society are forced into underground entrepreneurship by nature of the fact that they may not have the money. There may be barriers of entry in order to purchase licensing or rent space. There may be issues with the ability for individuals to even know that they have to pay taxes. Sometimes people have barriers in terms of having criminal records. Sometimes they're not able to get a bank account. Sometimes they might have credit challenges. Sometimes they're not able to be in receipt of visas to work. The fact that there is a segment of our economy that takes advantage of people. I've heard stories of people being exploited by individuals who they thought were helping them. And some of the economic development individuals that I've spoken to have been very passionate about why this happens, and have also been very passionate about the fact that a lot of programming is oriented towards individuals that are more entrepreneurially attractive from a funding perspective, because the underground economy doesn't fit in our existing paradigm of what entrepreneurs look like. But I argue that it should, because it's here and they're contributing to our economy. They're spending money, they're purchasing, they're taking care of their children. And so it's really important in my estimation to acknowledge that. And the goal is to make sure that we have inclusive practices, inclusive policies that allow individuals as much as possible to transition over to an existing or the traditional entrepreneurial framework so that they can be successful. And I must say that there are individuals who are part of the underground economy by choice. So it's not that they're not aware or that they can't or that there's something that is prohibiting them from participating. They choose not to. If you're not a B2B business, which is business to business, if you just provide services, it's a harder sell. But if you are in a B2B business where you want to sell to other businesses, then it would be very advantageous for you to transition over to a traditional model in theory. Then you have the whole lens of established organizations that have underground workers working with them all the time, but don't say anything about it. So that's what makes it complicated. They are everywhere, and we've largely come to accept them if it suits our purposes. So if they're cleaning our house, if they're cutting our kids' hair, if they're selling us food on the side of the road, and we pay them in cash, we don't think anything of it. But really, all of those acts are part of the underground economy. So the research that I've been doing has morphed a bit. The thought when I started was that I would connect with underground entrepreneurs and find out more about their personal stories. But because this is a very sensitive topic, there's a level of risk that's involved for individuals who say, hey, yeah, I'm an underground entrepreneur, and I've made quite a bit of money and I paid no taxes. And so the goal of this research was not in any way to try to penalize individuals that happen to be in this segment. It was more to raise awareness of it so that we can provide more supportive programming. And so we had to shift the focus away from the actual entrepreneurs to the individuals who provide the services, which has been great because I've been able to talk with individuals who are in this space, who deal with people who are underground entrepreneurs all the time, and learning what their experience has been, what their viewpoint is. I think it's been a really great way to start to understand this issue from a vantage point that is not jeopardizing the individuals that are in the segment. When I talk to people about the existence of this segment of our economy, they tend to always have a particular type of person in mind. But then when we continue to talk, they tend to come to the realization that, wait a minute, would this person be an underground entrepreneur? Wait a minute, I was an underground entrepreneur. And because the individuals that I am talking to during this segment of the research are in the economic development field, it's really important to capture their perceptions because they're directly connected to the individuals that are seeking the services. So if you feel that underground entrepreneurs are nefarious in any sort of way, and you are tasked with helping them to transition over to a more traditional form of entrepreneurship, their personal dealings and the fact that they may be in this category could skew your level of service to them. I think awareness is really key. I think the fact that for some people, underground entrepreneurs are this bad thing. But when you talk through what it means, once you realize that in some way, unless you're highly unusual, you've probably contributed to the underground economy yourself, knowingly or unknowingly. You've benefited from it somehow. Even the awareness of that tends to remove that negative perception. And in order to move forward so that we can make sure that we have a more inclusive environment for underground entrepreneurs to become successful, I think we need to learn to suspend judgment. And I think that in the economic development environment, if we're not careful, we can become paternalistic and assume that we have all of the answers. And a number of us have not had our own businesses. A number of us have not necessarily had to be in a position where you had to start a business in order to eat. And so if we've signed up to do the work, and the work is truly this valuable, incredibly meaningful work, and I absolutely believe that, then you have to understand the struggles that come along with certain segments of this population. And I think that once you're able to really get your mind around that, you become a better provider of those services to our community. We talk a lot about the middle class in this country, but there are individuals who are not middle class, who are surviving and who've survived for decades. And so how do you think that's happening? And so I think it's really important to get into the community to earn a level of trust where you can have honest conversations about those things. And once you start to get that intel, that really rich community intel, you get that before you start building the programs. I think a lot of times major entities that are players in this space, they will develop a program and then they will roll it out. We know what you need. We haven't even talked to you, but we know what you need. And in order to get this, you need to have these qualifications, but you don't really know if that's gonna work. So then what's the point? Is the point just to be able to say that you did it? Or is the point to make meaningful change? We have to figure out a way to make these two worlds, the world of these really creative people who are interested in doing business but aren't quite sure how to do it, with individuals who have all the tools, all of the knowledge on how to make that happen, but sort of aren't as aware that this other community exists. And so my hope is that this research serves as a bit of a bridge between those two, so that at least there's more of a mindfulness of that when we're developing programming. I would recommend that economic developers look at their programming and the requirements for their programming and ask themselves lots of questions. What type of person may not be able to meet this? Are we advertising in a way that is as inclusive as possible? Have we done the same thing for the last 5 years? Just asking a lot of questions tends to reveal a lot of answers. And I think that when you're trying to solve problems, you have to allow for space for flow. And most of us don't. We are more focused on you being in the office 40 hours a week than we are with you coming up with an idea. We are more focused with getting the impression that this job is the #1 thing in your life, as opposed to you maybe taking the afternoon off and spending time with your son. And while you're sitting there watching him play, then you get an answer that comes to you. If you're not making an impact, or you're not sure you're making an impact, or you can't personally give examples of where the programs that you're developing have made an impact, they've changed lives, then A, I think you probably would like to feel that. That feels pretty good. And B, why not live in such a way where you routinely get that feedback? Because it's really hard work. And really connecting to the individuals who need your assistance is the most gratifying thing I can imagine. What our city needs are individuals who are in the economic development space, who know their stuff, and we got a lot of those, and who also are incredibly committed to and compassionate about the plight of individuals in the city that they're trying to serve, including those who are part of the underground economy. So we're very fortunate in this area in that we have a number of programs that are very successful. Motor City Match is a program that's incredibly successful, largely focuses on physical space. Build Institute specifically works with individuals that would be in the underground entrepreneurial category and helps to get them to the point where they can apply for traditional funding and really look at more traditional business structures. ProsperUS does an amazing job. There are businesses that came through ProsperUS a few years ago that are doing really, really well. And they started cooking out of their house or selling things at church, in a very small capacity. And now they're stable and they're out of that sort of weird, scary place. The difference between the economic development engines that I've noticed who are really underground entrepreneur friendly versus those who aren't is that they're willing to continue to work with you even if you don't have certain things. So there's some funders, and it's not a slam, but you can't get in the door without 3 years of financials. You can't get in the door unless you have an established LLC or S Corp. You have to have a business identity created or they don't work with you. I think the difference between the places that I stated is the fact that they're willing to let you know what you don't have, and then they're willing to work with you for a little bit until you get it. And so they're much more flexible, and that's incredibly valuable. I think the future for economic development in Michigan is really exciting. There's tons of opportunity. I think in order for us to jump to that next level and to hold on to it, we have to be as thoughtful as we possibly can about the people that we serve and how we're providing our programming and how we're utilizing the dollars that we're shepherds over. Detroit is uniquely poised to be much more inclusive of its underground economy than other places. We have a lot of dedicated people that are concerned about the city. We have a lot of money pouring into the city, and we have a lot of opportunity within the city with individuals who've been here their entire life, who grew up in the city, and who have a lot to offer their city also, not just individuals who come to the city for various economic advantages or because it's sexy, but for those of us who've been here for a very long time. The main takeaway from the research that I've done on the underground economy, in my mind, is the fact that everyone has a story and that we all are trying to live the best life we possibly can, and that it's easier for some of us than others. And so those of us who are in the position to make some changes and some decisions with regards to program development are in very fortunate spaces, and that we should honor that and respect that as much as we can. This work is really important to me because my life has been a life that has been about possibilities. And so I dropped out of high school and I ran away from home and did not have a lot of opportunities. And so that's changed. So I am really, really passionate about helping people realize the beauty that's within themselves. And I'm really, really passionate about not diminishing the value of people, because I know what that feels like and it's not helpful. I really do feel a sense of collective responsibility with the work that I do in the community that I serve in, because I believe that it makes a difference. And if everybody felt that it made a difference, our community would be better. It would be stronger. And we wouldn't have people who are on the fringes trying to survive. We would have people figuring it out and starting to thrive a little bit. Despite what some people would have you believe, you could actually make a huge difference by yourself with your specific work for the rest of your life if you want to, if that's what you endeavor to do.